Oh my God, that's completely out of touch. And an insult to the intelligence of the American people.
In the closing months of 2024, the United States found itself gripped by a case that seemed to embody everything people loved and hated about the healthcare system, corporate power, and the way ordinary citizens push back when they feel cornered. The name Luigi Mangione quickly became known across the internet, not just because of what he allegedly did, but because of what it represented. Mangione stood accused of murdering Brian Thompson, the CEO of UnitedHealthcare, one of the largest health insurance companies in the country. For some, this was an act of unthinkable violence. For others, it was the outcry of a man pushed beyond his breaking point. To understand the weight of this case, you have to understand the backdrop. Healthcare in America is notoriously expensive, and stories of insurance claim denials are as common as they are devastating. Patients fighting life-threatening diseases are often denied the treatments their doctors recommend, not because the treatments don't work, but because they cost too much. Investigations have revealed that companies like UnitedHealthcare often used algorithms, even artificial intelligence tools, to reject claims automatically. The result? People left without the medicine they needed, families driven into bankruptcy, and a growing anger at corporations that profited while patients suffered. Against this backdrop, Luigi Mangione wasn't just another name. He was a 39-year-old man reportedly struggling with serious medical issues himself, including a painful spinal condition called spondylolisthesis. According to writings attributed to him, he was furious at what he called the parasitic nature of insurance companies that he felt bled working-class people dry while executives pocketed record profits. In his manifesto-like online posts, Mangione described healthcare CEOs as modern-day predators, people who enrich themselves by cutting off care to the most vulnerable. Legally, Mangione's alleged actions set off alarm bells across the justice system. He was accused of stalking Thompson before carrying out the killing. Prosecutors framed this not as a sudden outburst, but as a premeditated act, carefully planned and executed. The charges were severe: first-degree murder, aggravated stalking, and weapons offenses. Given the gravity of the case and Thompson's prominence, the prosecution announced it would seek the death penalty, one of the rarest punishments still available under U.S. law. That decision alone ignited fresh debates about whether execution was a fair punishment, especially in such a highly politicized case. The breach here is undeniable. The murder of a CEO wasn't just the killing of one man, it was a direct assault on one of the most powerful industries in America. Thompson wasn't just an executive, he was the face of UnitedHealthcare, a symbol of corporate authority in the healthcare space. For someone like Mangione, to strike at that symbol was to send a message. Anger at healthcare injustice had boiled over into violence. Critics of Mangione said this was terrorism, plain and simple, while his supporters painted him as a martyr, standing up to an unfeeling system. When the Bodycam and courtroom footage began surfacing, people rushed to see it. Court TV and local reporters provided snippets of the trial proceedings, while social media swirled with commentary. In one clip replayed online, prosecutors outlined how Thompson had overseen the deployment of an AI system that could automatically deny claims. According to whistleblowers and journalists, the system didn't fully review the medical necessity of treatments. It just pushed out rejections en masse, saving the company money at the expense of patients' lives. For Mangione's supporters, this clip was evidence of motive. The victim represented a system that put profits over people. In the released materials, Mangione's own words also became a focal point. He had once written online about watching his own medical requests stall in bureaucratic limbo. He complained about being told by insurance representatives that certain treatments weren't cost-effective. For someone already in pain and struggling financially, these moments felt like a betrayal of the most basic human right, the right to be cared for when sick. He compared the denial letters to death sentences, accusing the insurance companies of killing without pulling a trigger. The law, however, does not weigh suffering as a defense for murder. During the trial, the prosecution stressed that whatever Mangione's frustrations were, they did not give him the right to take another man's life. They pointed out that the justice system provides legal channels to contest denials, file lawsuits, or push for reform. By taking the law into his own hands, Mangione had crossed into criminal territory. Defense attorneys countered with a different narrative. This wasn't just cold-blooded murder, but the act of a desperate man. They sought to humanize him, painting him as someone overwhelmed by pain, injustice, and hopelessness. What made the case even more shocking was how quickly Mangione became an internet folk hero. Within days of his arrest, merchandise with his face began circulating online. Shirts, posters, even memes celebrated him as a modern Robin Hood. Outside the courthouse, small groups gathered to cheer him on, holding signs that read, "Healthcare is murder," and "Luigi stood up for us."
We are here because I have been personally affected by my health care and my inability to get health care because of my insurance and our just frankly terrible American healthcare system.
Universal health care now or free Luigi?
And privatized health care is a crime against humanity.
The systematic murder is the same as murder with a gun. There's no difference.
Opponents were horrified, saying this was a dangerous glorification of violence. But for those disillusioned by years of corporate denials and medical bankruptcies, Mangione's act felt like the spark of a larger rebellion. The consequences of this polarization have been massive. On one side, you have ordinary Americans who feel validated, who see in Mangione's actions the desperation they feel every time they fight with insurance over bills. On the other side, you have institutions, from hospitals to law enforcement, warning that this case could inspire copycats, fueling further violence against corporate figures. And caught in the middle is the justice system, tasked with deciding not just whether Mangione is guilty, but how to sentence someone whose case has taken on a symbolic life of its own. Educationally, this case is a study in how anger at systemic injustice can spiral into personal tragedy. It shows us the intersection between policy decisions made in boardrooms and the everyday lives of people who rely on those policies to survive. When healthcare costs push people into bankruptcy, when treatments are delayed or denied, the emotional toll is immense. For some, like Mangione, that toll appears to have broken something fundamental. Understanding this chain of cause and effect is essential if society wants to prevent similar tragedies in the future. From a legal standpoint, the trial has become a proving ground for arguments about motive, responsibility, and punishment. Can systemic injustice ever serve as mitigation for a violent crime? Should the death penalty apply to someone acting out of desperation rather than malice? The court's decisions in this case could set precedents that echo far beyond Mangione himself. The breach here isn't only about one crime, it's about the collapse of trust between the public and the healthcare system. For decades, people have suspected that insurers profit more from denying care than from providing it. Thompson's murder forced those suspicions into the spotlight, making them unavoidable. Suddenly, conversations about AI-driven denials, about executives' bonuses tied to cost-cutting, and about families destroyed by medical debt were front-page news. And the consequences? No matter the outcome of this trial, they're already being felt. Politicians have begun citing the case in speeches about healthcare reform. Advocacy groups are using it to push for stricter oversight of insurance practices. Meanwhile, social media continues to buzz, with hashtags demanding both justice for Thompson and freedom for Mangione. The ripple effects are spreading, showing just how much one crime can expose the fractures in an entire system. To fully grasp this, picture the courtroom scenes. In testimony after testimony, witnesses describe Thompson's leadership style, the corporate policies under his tenure, and the anger building among policy holders.
He was on display for everyone to see in the biggest staged perp walk I've ever seen in my career. It was absolutely unnecessary. He's been cooperative with law enforcement. He had been in custody for over a week. He waived extradition. He was cooperative at all accounts. There was no reason for the NYPD and everybody to have these big assault rifles that, frankly, I had no idea it was in their arsenal.
Lawyers sparred over whether Mangione was a calculating killer or a man pushed to the edge. The tension in the room was palpable, and the world outside watched with fascination, horror, and for some, admiration. The law must ultimately decide. Mangione has pleaded not guilty. His attorneys are preparing for a long battle, aware that public opinion cannot sway the cold machinery of justice. The prosecution, meanwhile, is determined to secure a conviction and to show that violence against executives, no matter how hated their industries may be, will not be tolerated. But perhaps the greatest breach isn't in the act itself, but in the way society has responded. The case revealed just how many people felt silenced and powerless until someone like Mangione forced the issue onto the national stage. It revealed the gap between institutions meant to provide care and the people they're supposed to serve. And so the consequences keep unfolding. If Mangione is convicted and sentenced to death, his supporters may see him as a martyr, a man who died not just for his own grievances, but for theirs. If he is sentenced to life, debates about justice and reform will continue for decades. In either case, the system he targeted has already been shaken. The public outrage sparked by this case will not vanish. Subscribe and follow Red Tape Red Flag on all platforms. And don't forget to like, share, and comment.